Hi, in this tutorial, we will learn the basics of Morph transition, which is arguably the best feature PowerPoint offers. Here you will learn the basics, which we will then use in the second module. Remember to practice on your own after going through the material. Let's get started. Create a sample shape and place it on the left side of the slide. Now duplicate the slide, and then move our shape to the other side of the slide. Go to the Transition tab and select the Morph transition. As you can see, our shape now smoothly changes its position relative to the previous slide. In the duration window, you have the option to select how long the transition should last. At any time, you can preview your transition by clicking on the Morph icon. The Morph transition not only allows for animating the position of an object, but also enables changing its size simultaneously. Change the size of the shape and check it. Another thing we can add to the Morph transition is changing the color of the shape. Change the color and click the Morph icon. As you can see, in this way we have changed the position, size, and color of the object. The next very important thing when using Morph transition is the proper naming of layers. Create several copies of our first shape on the same slide. Now, if we click the transition preview, the program will automatically select the object it wants to animate. Let's assume that we want to animate the first circle, not the last one. Go to the Home tab and open the Arrange panel. Open the Selection panel. Now we can see all our layers along with their names. For example, let's change all the layer names to be the same. As you can see, the name of our circle on the next slide is the same, but the program still randomly selects an object to animate, usually the one closest to its position on the next slide. Let's go back to the previous slide, select the object we want to animate, and change its name to start with 2 exclamation marks. Next, copy the same name and add it to the object on the next slide. If you want another object to be animated, simply change its name to the same one across the 2 slides. But remember to also change the name of the previous object so that the program knows exactly which object to animate. Check if the name matches on both slides. Let's check our animation. Using this technique and the appropriate names for your layers, you can animate multiple elements simultaneously and have full control over them. Let's test this with a larger number of objects. As you can see, the remaining 3 circles have the same name. We need to change their names to have control over them. Change the name of each object, remembering to add 2 exclamation marks at the front. This informs the program which object to animate. Now copy the remaining shapes to the next slide. Change their size and position on the slide. Preview the transition. As you can see, we now have full control over the objects. Another important aspect is the position of the objects. Let's remove the objects from this slide. Zoom out, select the objects, and delete them. Also, delete 2 objects on this slide. Gently move the objects to the left. Copy them to the next slide. Move them to the right side of the slide and preview the transition. As you can see, both shapes move at the same pace relative to each other. Now let's change their pace. Go back to the first slide, zoom out, and move one circle off the slide. Go to the second slide and preview the transition. As you can see, now the objects move at different speeds, even though they end up in the same position on the second slide. If you place them off the slide, but their distance from each other remains similar, their transition pace will also be similar. So remember, to add an extra motion effect, always slightly change the distance between the objects. Often, a greater distance between objects significantly enhances the visual layer of the animation by adding extra movement. The same principle applies to text animation. Let's check it. Delete the second slide and remove the objects from the first slide. Insert 3 lines of sample text in the center of the slide. Adjust the text roughly as shown in the video. Make it a bit bigger. You can also slightly adjust the line spacing in the text. Now duplicate the entire slide. On the first slide, move the text down off the slide so that it smoothly enters on the second slide. Now check the transition on second slide. As you can see, each line of text enters at the same pace. To make the transition more interesting, we need to increase the line spacing between the lines of text on the first slide. Select the text, then change the line spacing from 1.5 to 3. You can find this option in the Home tab. The spacing is now larger. Let's check the animation. As you can see, each line of text now enters with a slight delay, which improves the visual presentation. If you want to further increase the line spacing, use the Line Spacing Options feature. Preview the transition. Now the text animation looks significantly better. Unfortunately, if we want to achieve a similar effect in horizontal orientation, we have to do it slightly differently. Delete first slide. Now, we need to separate our text into 3 separate text boxes. Copy our text box and delete the unnecessary sentences to avoid repetition. Now align the text to the left and arrange it on the slide. Use the Distribute Vertically option to perfectly space the text relative to each other. Now duplicate our slide. Go back to the first slide and move the text off the slide so that the animation enters on the second slide. Now all the text boxes enter simultaneously. Let's change it. Go back to the first slide, then adjust the position of the second and third lines of text as shown in the video. You can also use the Distribute Horizontally option. Let's preview the animation now. Now each line of text enters with a slight delay, which looks much more engaging. You can further increase the position of the text to enhance the delay effect. This looks much more interesting than having all the text enter at once. Now let's add a third slide so that the animation can enter and exit the slide. Slide 2 is our middle slide. Let's arrange the text on it according to your preferences. Now copy our texts from the first slide. We'll paste them into a new slide. Insert a new blank slide and delete its contents. Now paste the copied text, then move it to the other side off the slide. This will be the position where the text will exit the slide. Let's check our transitions. Slide 2 looks okay. Slide 3 as well. Now check it in slideshow mode, starting from the first slide. Click to go to the next slide. Okay, everything looks very good. That's what I was aiming for. Remember, you can always increase or decrease the animation duration as well. Select all the slides and change the duration. Go to the first slide and see how it looks in slideshow mode. Now our duration is much longer. Always adjust the timing to your preference. Now let's see how the morph transition works with using photos. Insert any photo. Resize it a bit and align it to the right side of the slide. Duplicate the slide, then move it to the left side. Preview the transition. Reduce the transition duration. It's better, but it still looks dull. To enhance the transition's attractiveness, go back to the first slide and use the crop picture option. Right-click on the image and choose crop. Now enlarge the photo by dragging the handle at the corner of the image. Adjust the position of the photo in the center of the frame. Preview the transition. Now it looks much better and more dynamic. Let's add another picture. You can copy the photo by pressing the Ctrl key and dragging the photo to the side. Crop the picture so it fits to the slide. Click the right mouse button and select Change Picture. Now copy the new photo to the previous slide. Place it off the slide. Check the transition. It looks good, but once again, let's resize the photo within the frame using crop. Go to slide 1, select the photo, crop it, and then enlarge the photo. Check the transition. It looks definitely better than without the additional enlargement of the crop photo in the frame. Duplicate the slide again, and then crop the pictures as shown in the video. Fit the photo inside the new frame. Now do the same with the second photo. Crop, resize, and adjust it as needed. Check the transition. Looks good. You can also preview the whole thing in slideshow mode. As you can see, these simple adjustments have a significant impact on the visual appeal of the animation. Now I'll show you how to use Morph with 3D objects. Go to the Insert tab, then select Stock 3D Models. You can also insert your own objects, but we will cover that in Module 2. As you can see, there's a large library of 3D objects available here. Some models also have embedded animations, indicated by a special icon. Let's add a model. Make it a bit bigger. As you can see, the model is animated and moving. To rotate the model, press and hold the icon with arrows in the center of the model. You can position the model at any angle you like. Additionally, in the 3D Model tab, you'll find predefined model views. They are especially helpful when you want to position the model, for example, in a perfect top-down perspective. The morph animation works exactly the same way as with other objects. Duplicate the slide, change the position and angle of the object, then add a morph transition. Unfortunately, animated objects stop moving during the transition. But we're unable to do anything about that. Let's delete the animated object and add a regular 3D model instead. Go to Insert, then select Stop 3D Models again, and choose the object that suits your project. Let's add a dinosaur. Adjust its size, position, and angle of placement. Copy the object to the second slide and change its layout. Sometimes, you really need to zoom out the slide to make it easier to position the object. Let's preview our transition. Animation of 3D objects really makes an impression. You can copy the slide again and play around with the layout of the dinosaur on the slide. Remember that working with 3D objects significantly affects your computer's performance, so sometimes the program may run a bit slower. But the effect of animated 3D objects can really surprise your audience. Sometimes it's easier to preview animations in slideshow mode. Each click causes a transition to the next slide. The last thing we will learn in this part of the tutorial is how to export a presentation to a video format and set the appropriate slide durations. Let's add additional slides to our presentation and apply the morph transition to the 3D model. Let's now go back to the first slide and take a look at the duration and after settings. Duration is responsible for the length of the morph transition. After is the setting that determines how long the slide will stay before automatically transitioning to the next one. Let's currently leave it at 0 seconds. To export the video, click on File, then Export, and finally create a video. As you can see, currently we cannot select any option other than Don't Use Recorded Timings and Narrations. We can only choose how many seconds to spend on each slide, but this applies to all slides. Let's return to the project. Now, let's set the appropriate time for the after parameter on each slide. Remember, this is the time the slide will be displayed before transitioning to the next one. For each slide, you can also set a different duration length. By opening the panel below, you can easily check the times for each slide. Here you will find time spent on slide. It corresponds to the after parameter. Go back to the first slide and preview the animations in slideshow mode. Currently, our animation has additional time spent on slide settings, which definitely helps to extend the duration of slides with more information, making them easier to digest and allowing enough time to read the content. To return to the project, click on this icon again. Now, we can export the presentation as a video. Click File, then Export, and select Create a Video. As you can see, we now have two options to choose from: using our set times for time spent on each slide, or not using this option. If any of the slides do not have a set slide duration, we can set its length below. To export the video, simply click Create Video and wait for it to finish exporting. That's all for this material. These basics are completely sufficient for you to recreate my presentations, which are well known on social media. We will design them all from scratch in the next module. Thanks.